Well, yes, it is still 2021, and we're still finding new ways that leaders are adapting to business and adapting to this new economy. We know 2021, it has to be better than 2020. But we do know that there's going to be a lot of change going on. And that's why every single week we talk to the fabulous Mark Z. This is another one in the fabulous Mark Z moments. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Jeff, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Mark, I want to, for those listeners who don't know what you do for a living, you have a placement firm. You do a lot of work in the placement of professional services, especially law firms. You were very helpful for me over the last couple of weeks. It's very hard to pick an attorney. I gave you a call. You were able to help me sift through a very difficult situation with a client of mine, helping me to sort of figure out how best to represent my client in a situation. I want to say how considerate you were on a weekend and helping me out. And anybody who knows Mark Z knows he's always ready to help anytime that someone needs help.
Thank you, Jeff. No, it's my pleasure. This is the legal world is my world, and anything I can always do to help yourself as well as other businesses or people that need representation. What we do are full service legal recruiting and staffing, and so we know the firms and we know the organizations and the attorneys.
And just so everybody knows that I really do believe that these Mark Z moments are important. I wrote a text to my business partner yesterday and I went, Mark Z says, and I wrote him a whole thing about your recommendations about how to handle a legal situation. So that's why we like talking to you, Mark, because you really are in the know and you see all of them. You're sort of, you're the behind the scenes guy who sees all these attorneys and knows what's going on. So,
Thank you.
I know you're going to be talking about getting back to work, so I'm looking forward to that as well. I mean, not that I ever stopped work. It was a busier year than ever, but people are thinking about how they're going to get back to work in 2021.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, I was going to say, first of all, you know, as you say, not only it's legal is my world, I think like a lawyer because I am a lawyer. And my background, I've been in-house and I worked at a major law firm. So the good news is I can provide that. Not only, I don't provide legal advice anymore, but I can provide the advice and the recommendations. And along those lines, in looking at, advising our businesses, advising our firms, one thing that we should all keep in mind that now that we have a vaccine rolling out, there's certain myths that we have to overcome in order to move forward in terms of our long-term planning as businesses and the way we run our firms. The first myth is it's terrific that you're getting a vaccine or your time will come to get a vaccine, but it does not mean, particularly until a certain percentage of people are vaccinated, that you can't adhere to protocols. You can still pass on the virus. So if you go out now and get a vaccine and you get both parts of the vaccine or get it at once, depending on what company's vaccine you use, you still have to wear a mask. You still have to follow protocol. There are a lot of people out there. And what's amazing, Jeff, you and I had an incident where somebody was even a doctor and they didn't realize that even though they were vaccinated, they could still give that to other people. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. Just because you're getting a vaccine, you may be protected, but others are not.
Well, I'll be personal about it. And I'm going to be vaccinated before my wife. And her attitude is, you may be vaccinated, but you could still get it and you could still carry it to me. So you need to be careful when you get home and what you're doing when you go out. So, until there's a herd, mentality or a herd, whatever it's called, she wants me to be careful because my wife's not going to get the vaccine for 3-4 months after me.
Right.
That's because
Right.
I married a minor. Right.
No, totally. And that's something that we have to, the next myth is that your doctor has the vaccine. Your doctors do not have the vaccine. And if you call your doctor, they'll say, just get your place in line, which, the states and the US government is starting to roll out protocols on social media or on the websites. Just get your place in line. They do not have the vaccines. Hospitals are getting less now because a lot of the hospitals, unfortunately, as you and I have talked about, they've not only given it to their doctors and their nurses, but they've given it to their board of trustees who never come to the hospitals. So now
Well,
they don't have the vaccines.
you know, it's funny. We were talking to one of our favorite doctors who we went on an entrepreneurial trip with a couple of years ago. And he called, we had a discussion on Saturday, and he said to me, no vaccines for doctors. Give it up. You got to get, you know, it's going to be CVS and Walgreens and Walmart and Foxborough and Fenway Park. It's not going to be doctors. And I think you're right. But I do think, you know, it's going to be B2B. That's the way I say to people. It's business to business. You're not going to see, you know, the government is, you know, is having trouble, you know, with this whole process. And I think the hospitals will be out of it. It's going to be these large CVS national chains and Walgreens. They're going to have that's who's going to be doing this.
Totally correct. At the end of the day, you know, my parents finally, particularly my father, finally got vaccinated. And what happened at the end of the day, my brother set him up on CVS, and he went into CVS, and they had the protocols, and they gave the vaccine. You know, his doctors couldn't give him, and he was more than qualified to, in terms of under the different guidelines, to get the vaccine a long time ago. But in the end of the day, it was CVS. And that's where, as you say, the government is rolling it out to the CVSs, the Walgreens, the Walmarts. And so people really should check the sites as far as that, because the hospitals are not going to really have enough vaccines anymore. And then lastly, the third myth, Jeff, is even once firms and companies start opening up a little bit more, saying, okay, you can start coming. We want certain people to start coming back. And unless you have a really good excuse to come back, they have to look at the fact there's certain people that got COVID that forever will now have an issue with COVID that's going to affect their performance, that's going to affect them physically, and you might have to give them an accommodation. They may still need to work remotely, or they're going to have a schedule where they can come in.
Good point, Mark, because I have a client that had COVID, and it's contrary to what a lot of people say to me, and she's quite young, not even mid-20s. And months later, she's still having after effects. And that's what we're seeing.
Right. And so companies and firms are going to have to prepare for that even though eventually we can go back to more people in the office, gradually, if there is a protocol for not wearing a mask at some point way down the road, but certain protocols of bringing people back, firms and companies have to understand that they're going to have to still make accommodations.
Right. Well, again, I think this is an important topic. I know you're going to be bringing it up again about how to get back to work and structure your organization in a better way. Mark, if someone's looking for you the way I was on the weekend, how would they find you?
Well, first of all, just Google Mark Z, M-A-R-C, and the letter Z, and we come right up. Or our website, markzlegal.com, MARCZLEGAL.com, or even a phone call, 617-338-1300.
Thank you very much, Mark. You know, we really appreciate the relationship. Mark Z Legal Staffing. This is Radio Entrepreneurs. Mark.